probably the best live adaptation of any anime ever. Ever. Let's talk about Rurouni Kenshin, The Beginning.
Before we begin, I want to disclose that we are very well aware of the mangaka's crimes, and we choose to review these films as works of art wholly owned by the cast and crew and Otomo Keishi.
5 films in total, the whole arc. It has come to a complete circle when it comes to the story of Imura Kenshin. Let's talk about the beginning. First of all, it was perfect. I thought it was perfect in
it was definitely
aspect.
perfect.
In every aspect of this film, it was perfect. The cinematography was amazing. The special effects were amazing. The fight choreography was amazing. Everything was perfect. Tomoe was perfect. Kenshin was perfect.
Yes. And it was like a one-to-one from manga panel to screen, from OVA Trust and Betrayal to screen. It was just like everything that worked about the manga and the story. They captured the heart and soul of Rurouni Kenshin on film.
Maybe perhaps there might be a little bit of a complaint with the pacing of the story. I had no complaints about that whatsoever because like it's a complete contrast to the brutality and the blood and the death of the killing machine that is the Hitokiri Batosai versus his humanity. And Batosai. That had to make a balancing act throughout this whole movie.
I completely agree. You know, sometimes when we're watching the original trilogy where it's full of, you know, lighthearted, mild violence with his no-killing style, when it comes to this one, it's blood, guts, bubbles and guts and everything, and like he's slicing people's limbs off, and so you kind of need a chance to simmer down, calm down, and take a minute with Tomoe and Kenshin so that you can understand their relationship and build that story and passion with them. So it's not always just slicing someone's arm off.
One of the things that I really looked forward to was his showdown with Soji.
Yes, absolutely. Okita Soji, who was the person with tuberculosis in Shinsengumi. You know, I never really imagined that his fight could come off so epic with Kenshin. Like, he was doing like kabukicho forms like while he was slashing, and it just painted a really unique picture of how a fight would play out between samurai.
I actually thought that this particular fight scene was the best choreographed fight scene out of all the movies. Because the other ones were a little bit more flared, it was a little bit more fun. Even in the final, that was just like really raw action and it was like really fast paced. But I feel like there was a lot of purposeful like choreography with this one. It was like, we had rewinded a couple times. It was just what just happened there? What kind of move was this? That step that he does, like those few extra steps that he goes in there, was just like, wow, I was just so breathless.
It definitely screamed a lot more authentic, like samurai kata movements.
Yeah.
Now, the other fights in the other movies are definitely great. I'm a huge fan of the Enishi fight, particularly because he brings so much of that Chinese sword style to the fight, and it's so wonky but awkward in a great way. Whereas this one is definitely more true and authentic to like a samurai fight, even though it's still very much romanticized and stylized.
Now, a little bit of a history lesson here. This takes place before the Meiji era.
This Atarashi Jidai, as Kenshin mentions, is the new age in which the Meiji is restored, who had their control wrested away from them with the shogun with their era of strife called the Bakumatsu, or during the Edo period of Japan. And so the shogun and the emperor are kind of fighting each other for control of all of Japan. And the Boshin War, or the Battle of Toba Fushimi, is the battle that you see at the end of the beginning and the beginning of the first movie. The beginning of the first movie. And that's the battle that kind of solidified the emperor's rule over Japan. And that started Kenshin's Rurouni days.
Oh, okay. So exactly what he just said. In terms of any of you that is not familiar with the manga or not familiar with the anime, this was the brutal and bloodthirsty killing machine Hitokiri Batosai. But this story is really kind of the origin of Kenshin himself and how he met Tomoe, really kind of a reflection of his humanity.
Even an assassin like Kenshin can have a coming of age, and it's quite unlike anyone else's coming of age. He grows up killing for the Choshu rebels, and then his time with Tomoe just makes him think about the larger picture of what he is fighting for. He starts to bring questions up in his mind about, can you really fight for peace? Can you kill and then have peace in the back of your mind? Can you do all of this? But at the end of the day, his relationship with Tomoe and his time with her gives him the resolve to say, hey, after all of this, after I bring about the Atarashi Jidai I'm going to lay down my weapon and I will never kill again. And this is what sparks the resolve in Tomoe in exchange when she's already there to get vengeance for her husband to be Kiyosato, who Kenshin killed. And then throughout their time, she fell in love, came to the realization that despite all of the people he's going to kill and continue to kill, when that new age comes, he's going to save so much more.
You know, I fell completely in love with Tomoe in this one.
Yes.
I mean, like, just her nuance and her character, the way it was portrayed on screen, like, the tragedy, that kind of, the essence of her tragedy, like, as she moved about, as the way she stared at people, her reaction, just her lack of dialogue, so to speak, it was all kind of portrayed out there in a sense where you just felt sorry for her, but were also magnetized and pulled into her own story and felt every piece of emotion that she was portraying.
She has that kind of pinnacle facial acting where you can read almost anything that she's feeling through her face.
So great.
And she has this unyielding beauty. I've been calling it for the last couple of days, unyielding beauty. When you look into her face, no matter what expression she's giving, it's just like attacking you, but in a peaceful way.
In a peaceful way.
And all that credit goes to the actress who played Tomoe, Arimura Kasumi.
So in the end, after she realizes that she has completely fallen in love with him, she chose to save him in that final battle. But the end result was very tragic in terms of how it all ended. She gets in the way, gets stabbed, and dies. But before dying, she tells him that she loves him and gives him his scar.
Gomennasai, anata.
That was just so tragic because, like, the first scar was from her first love, and then the second scar was from her herself. It was just so poetic, kind of almost like sealed the mark or gave Kenshin the mark of his humanity and what he's about to do after the wars and when he becomes the Rurouni Kenshin. So in totality, because this was just so perfect in every aspect, we're just gonna give this a huge A+. Plus.
But that'll do it for our review of Rurouni Kenshin The Beginning. If you enjoyed our video, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell notification so you know when we post new videos, leave your comments below, and as always, we'll see you next time.